I did get a chance to look at it. I'd like to talk about that. I imagine there may be a criminal protective order as well, Ms. Palumbo.
There is.
Oh, okay. So, Mr. Mueller, what are your thoughts on custody status?
It is that the bail just remain as said has previously been issued into the amount of 20,000. The people are seeking to increase it up to an amount of 200,000, and how they got up to that figure, I do not know. I guess they must have used a cartograph of crystal and channeled the framers' intent to be able to come up with that number. From these purported threats, none of those are actually threats of death or great bodily injury. The worst they have is "I'm going to beat your ass." Which is just a threat of some harm, but it's not threat of death or great bodily injury, which is required under the statute. It's basically an annoying message, if that at all. And in fact, I don't believe that there's been any allegation after the complaining witness received these threats that she had in fact been beaten or injured in any way at all. A lot of these incidents involve speculation and conjecture, speculation that he lit her barbecue on in the backyard, speculation that he flattened her tire. There's no evidence that he was engaged in any such conduct. It's just speculation and conjecture on the part of the complaining witness as to whether or not Mr. Ramirez-Morales was involved in these acts. And the whole thing about stalking is that it's basically for a limited time period. It's like for the most part, it might just be annoyance, telephone calls, annoyance messages, text messages, 653 subdivision M, I believe. But I don't think that these conduct and actions rise to the level of stalking, and they do not mean for the or a means for the people to increase the bail up to 200,000, which is patently unreasonable. Because right now, since Mr. Ramirez-Morales can't afford to even the 20,000, you might as well set it at no bail if you put it at 200,000. It's just ridiculous. And I don't believe that the people have sustained their burden under the Humphreys decision, because I don't believe that there's any evidence or belief that Mr. Ramirez-Morales would engage in conduct that would amount to a super strike. It just simply ain't there. And I'd ask that bail remain at 20,000.
Thank you, Mr. Mueller. Ms. Palumbo.
Once upon a time, before this court changed the bail schedule, a 646.9B was set at $100,000. In this particular, and then the bail schedule changed to go based upon the amount of years that a person could be incarcerated, which makes the current bail schedule for this offense $20,000. And if the court added the DV aspect to it, it would be $30,000. And $30,000 is incredibly low for the conduct that is going on here in this case. This court, in setting bail, has to consider public safety first, and public safety is a real concern in this particular case. This is a woman who was in a relationship with this man that she ended on March 31st. And for the last 2 months, not one day, but for 2 months, he has been continually terrorizing her. And this is a case where for stalking, you need just 2 incidents of malicious or harassing conduct coupled with a credible threat, and that is a stalking allegation. In this case, on March 31st, between March 31st and May 24th of 2023, the defendant has broken back into a house that he was asked to leave and did leave and moved his belongings out of. And he came back through a window, not through her door when she invited him over, but through a window and threw paint all over her basement and stole her cushions. He then, on April 1st, she believes she saw him in the backyard lighting her barbecue on fire. On April 4th, he did show up at her house. She told him she was afraid of him, and he told her, "I wish you were dead." Then on April 4th, he dismantled her Ring camera by using a drill, and that was caught on the Ring camera, actually. So there is evidence of him dismantling her security Ring camera. And then on April 4th, he sent her a number of text messages pleading to her, you better hope that nothing happens to you or your mom. You're going to pay. You will remember me. And you know, my mind is running 100 miles per hour and it's starting to hate you. And these messages go on and on and on to the point. I didn't put all of the messages in this motion because there were so many of them and because we were on a time constraint, but there were more. And then the victim is so concerned for her safety, she gets a restraining order and asks her brother to serve it on him, which he does, which is also captured on camera. And even with the restraining order in place, her tire all of a sudden goes flat and on the way to school in the morning to drop her child off. And who's behind her? Lo and behold, the defendant. Coincidence? I don't think so. Then the next day he shows up at her house at 2:30 in the morning, pounding on the door, screaming at her that she owes him $30,000. But it doesn't stop there. She actually goes to court and gets a restraining order from a judge, leaves the court after getting a 5-year restraining order granted, goes straight to her house, is sitting on her porch talking to her father, and out of nowhere, the defendant comes aggressively running up to her, does put hands on her, does cause injury, does grab her hair, causes pain. I don't know if there was a physical actual bruise or injury, but grabs her arms and threatens in Spanish that he's going to, quote, fuck her up and that he's going to beat her ass. So those are two quotes that were in there. One of them was listed in this bail motion. The other one is in the police report. This is a person who cannot take no for an answer. He doesn't leave her alone. A court order is not protecting this woman. She's in fear for her safety, and $30,000 bail is absolutely outrageous to protect this woman. The way I got to $200,000, in a sense, it was sort of grabbing at a number, but the bail schedule used to be $100,000 for a 646.9B, and this is a 646.9B that he's now violated twice. So that's how I came up to the 200,000.
And now I do understand the 30,000. You make a good point in that. It would be 20,000 since it's a 4-year max, but on the 646B, but we have the 10,000 for DV component of it per the best bail schedule. So schedule would actually be 30,000, but I understand. I appreciate the elucidation as to how you got to 200,000 and everything else you said there. And I did have a chance to review what you had written. Ms. Casas?
Yes.
Okay, can you turn on your camera, please? Okay, you have the right to address the court. You don't have to on these issues, okay? If you do address the court, I'd like to get your position on whether this court should set bail, at what amount, whether the court should release him, those issues. But you can address the court if you don't want to.
Yeah, I was able to talk to the district attorney and the probation officer, and I told them the same thing. My thing is just, I don't feel safe with him being outside just because of all the threats and the just showing up at random. I live by myself with my daughter. She's 7. And I had to talk to her about, if he breaks in, where are you going to hide? And who are you going to call? And I got her cell phone and I hit it. And I was like, okay, if anything happens, you run to the cell phone and call 911, and that's it. I don't know. It's just really traumatic for her. I am getting therapy for her and for myself, but it's just I can't sleep. I haven't slept. Even with him being in custody, just knowing that he might get out and he might start all over again. I just asked him to stop. All I want is for him to leave me alone. That's it.
Okay, I appreciate that. I appreciate you sharing that with me. I really do. Can I ask, I do have in my hand what's called a criminal protective order, as you may have discussed with the district attorney's office. I do see on here, I assume your daughter, I'm not going to use names here, I'm just going to use initials, but LS is the daughter, I assume.
Yes.
There is also an MGJS and an EC. What's their connection?
That's my parents.
Okay.
And my daughter.
Okay.
So pretty much the whole time that he was like texting me and all this stuff, calling me, and he's always just threatening my dad because he thinks like I ended the relationship because of my dad. And he'll text me like, oh, I know it's not your fault, but it's his fault. And I know who's the one to blame for all this. And and he would tell me like he's gonna F him up and
Okay.
we're all screwed. Like we're both screwed. It's just me and my dad.
Okay. I appreciate you sharing that with me. I do see that there is also a stay away order from these two addresses in Woodland. I'm not going to state them publicly, but they're written here. Is one of those addresses where you live with your daughter and the other one where your parents live?
Yes, the thing is that I spent a lot of time like this last week. I haven't been home much. Since the 24th, I pretty much left, and I ended up at my parents' house. So I have not been at my house until I saw online that he was arrested because I figured like I might be safer. But that's pretty much where I run when I don't feel safe. That's like they watch my daughter every day. So as soon as I get to work, I have to go get her. So I'm usually there or at my house.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Casas. Anything else you'd like to share?
No, I just want this to stop. That's why I asked since the beginning.
Thank you. I appreciate it, Ms. Casas. Okay, Mr. Mueller, I'll let you have the last word on all this. And
Yes, the people gave a historical perspective, let's put it that way, in regards to the bail system. But that was also prior to Humphrey, which significantly changed everything and which caused our bail schedule to be rearranged as it is right now. And to put things in historical perspective, if you go back far enough, stealing a person's horse is a hanging offense. So let's not go back into history, okay? We're dealing with the here and now. And right now, the bail schedule should be at 30,000. The people may not like it, but that is the presumptive bail schedule. And if these are the worst threats that the people were able to come up with, none of these threats involve death or the threat of great bodily injury or significant harm. It's basically 653 subdivision M, annoying or phone calls, annoying messages, just being annoying. And I'm sure that can be very frustrating for the complaining witness, but it does not rise to the level of criminal threats. And bail should remain at 30,000 or should be set at 30,000, simply because, as it is right now, Mr. Ramirez Morales cannot even afford 20,000. Submit.
okay, thank you. I will assume that he can't afford at least the scheduled amount of 30,000. And
Your Honor, Ms. Casas has her hand up again.
who's just speaking there? I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry. This is Julia Hernandez, the advocate from the DA's office.
No, that's fine. I wasn't upset or anything. I just it was like this disembodied voice. Ms. Casas, you did already share. I'm happy to hear you out, but do you have anything new to add?
I am so sorry, but they keep saying that he didn't threaten my life, and he said that he was gonna chop my head off a few times.
Okay, I appreciate that, Ms. Casas. Thank you. I do want to give the public defender the last word on this. So do you have anything else to add?
No, Your Honor.
Okay. Submitted,
Submit.
Ms. Paloma?
Yes.
Okay, I agree with the district attorney on this case. I will be setting bail at the $200,000 amount. I will find that an enhancement is necessary due to public safety and what has been alleged and what has been placed on the record here today, as well as the point of view of the victim and her feelings. I will also make a finding because Mr. Mueller is absolutely right about Humphrey, is absolutely right about how our bail schedule was affected by Humphrey and what the principles that underlie Humphrey. But the court will, based on individualized consideration of these factors that I mentioned, find by clear and convincing evidence that non-financial conditions of release or a lesser amount of bail will not reasonably protect the victim or the greater public, and therefore will set bail at that $200,000 amount, which is enhanced from the $30,000. I will also be issuing the criminal protective order that's been discussed. So Mr. Ramirez Morales and this applies whether or not you post bail, you cannot come within 100 yards of the persons who are protected here. It's I'm going to use initials, but it's MS, LS, EC, and MGJS, but they're written here. You cannot try to contact them through any third party or through any electronic means. There are also 2 addresses here in Woodland that was discussed during Ms. Casas's testimony. As you heard, you cannot come within 100 yards of those 2 addresses. 2 other pieces of this that are key. One is that you cannot own, possess, buy, or try to receive or otherwise obtain any firearms or ammunition. And you cannot harass, strike, threaten, assault, follow, etc. Any of these folks who are here listed here as protected parties. Okay, you will be served on with this today. Anything else, Mr. Mueller, on this one? Okay, Ms. Palomo?
No, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Casas. You can leave the Zoom call now. Thank you, Ms. Hernandez. Sorry, I didn't hear you there, or I didn't know who was speaking there, so.
Sorry about that.
Oh, you don't have to apologize. Ms. Craig, how are you doing?